Welcome back. I'll start again. Hello, everyone, and welcome back. We just wanted to give a few logistics before we get started today. A reminder that we will have a lull in 2 Sundays on March the 28th and April the 4th. We will not have any sessions going on due to the Passover and Easter Sunday holidays. So again, no meetings, no sessions next Sunday and the Sunday after the next one. And we will resume back again here on April the 11th. So please mark this in your calendars. An important reminder too is that when we come back in April 11th, the timing difference between Israel and the United States will be back again being 7 hours. So we will go back to the original schedule of 1 o'clock New York time, Zoom, and that translates into 8 o'clock in Israel time. If you are coming from and joining us from any other countries in the world, please just make sure that you know the time differences between your country and New York, so that you account for the potential differences in the clock shifting back and forth. So with those logistics, we're ready to get started today. It is my pleasure to introduce today 3 speakers who focus on renewable energy and who strive to help the world harness energy while very importantly minimizing our ecological footprint. Our first speaker today is Dr. Tareq Abu Hamed, who received his PhD in chemical engineering from Ankara University. He then proceeded to do not 1, but 2 postdocs. His first one was at the Weizmann Institute of Science in Israel, where he worked at the Environmental Sciences and Energy Research Department. His second postdoc was at the University of Minnesota, where he worked in the Solar Energy Laboratory within the Department of Mechanical Engineering. Tareq has an impressive publication record, published profusely in a wide variety of journals. And he received several awards, including the very, very prestigious Dan David Prize that funds outstanding, innovative, and interdisciplinary research. So Tareq, congratulations on that one. I did not know about that. Tareq has also served as the Vice Chief Scientist and the Director of Engineering Research at the Ministry of Science, Technology, and Space, and is currently the Academic Director and the Head of the Renewable Energy Center at the Arava Institute. He is also a researcher at the Dead Sea and Arava Science Center. And for those that do not know this, Dr. Abu Hamed will be taking over the Executive Director of the Arava Institute. So congratulations again on that new position that you will be embarking on. And just for those that don't know either, I am very much looking to work with Tareq in a dialogue of civilizations that we are organizing at Northeastern University. So this is a shameless, really shameless advertising that I'm doing so that my students from Northeastern University, make sure you come to Israel with us next year, summer 2022, so that you can benefit from taking classes from Tareq directly. Our second speaker is Dr. Yair Teller, who is a visionary entrepreneur. Although originally he started as a water biologist and an ecologist, during his professional career, he became actively involved in sustainability, biogas, and social change. He has become an internationally recognized authority on small biogas systems and on-site recycling. He is committed to bringing domestic biogas to developing countries, and his work has taken him to India, Mexico, Kenya, Palestine, and Israel. In 2010, Yair, together with his co-founders, created a company called Home Biogas, which is now he is heading himself and where he is the chief scientist. The objective of this company is to develop, design, build, and promote optimal small and medium-sized biogas systems so that they can become customary home appliances in developing countries as well as already developed countries. The company today has projects with the Ministry of Environment in Israel, with the Arava Institute, and outside of Israel, as well working, for example, with the Ministry of Energy in the Dominican Republic. Thank you, Yair, for being here with us. Our last speaker today is Tali Zohar. She is about to receive her PhD from the University of Haifa. So congratulations, Tali, on this very important step in your professional career. During her graduate work, Tali studied the transition to low carbon energy systems from a middle out perspective. And I have no idea what that is. So I am looking forward to learning about the middle out perspective. She is focusing on Israel's renewable energy policy and implementation. She is currently working at the Dead Sea and Arava Science Center, conducting agrivoltaic research with Dr. Tareq Abu Hamed. She moved to Kibbutz Ktura with her family a few months ago. We're hoping you're enjoying your transition into the kibbutz. And just like all of us, she really loves the desert. So we're excited to have the three of you here today to teach us all about renewable energy in your respective organizations and institutions. So thank you so much for being here. Tareq, you want to take it on?
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Rebecca. Thank you, Abigail, Franny, for organizing this, and for sure the friends of the Arava Institute. It's a great pleasure to be with you today. And it's really impressive to see that we have 93 participants so far. Before I start, actually, I would like to say a few words on my vision as the executive director of the Arava Institute. Here in our region, we share the natural resources, and also we share the environmental challenges. To solve these environmental challenges, we need to find a cooperative cross-border approach. Ignoring environmental issues will lead to serious environmental problems and to social injustice. My vision is to advance in the Institute as a leader in advancing cross-border environmental cooperation not only on research, but also in the academia, and also with the communities. And we want to do that for the well-being and justice of the people that live in our region, despite the conflict that we have in our small region. When I say region, I mean the Middle East. I will share now my slides. Okay, and here we go. Okay, so in the next 25-30 minutes, I'll be talking about the role of renewable energy in regional development. And I want to repeat, when I say region, that includes Jordan, Palestine, Israel, the Middle East, and sometimes small regions like the Arava and the Bedouin communities in the country. In this slide, you see sandstorm that our region faced in 2015 that covered the whole Eastern Mediterranean. And that shows how small our region. In these photos here, on the upper left corner, you see this is the Jaffa Street in Jerusalem. See the impact of that sandstorm. Upright, you see it's in Baghdad in Iraq, and the photo with the kids at the bottom, it's one of the refugee camps in Lebanon. This happened during the same 3 days, huge sandstorm that impacted our region. Our region is blessed with very high solar radiation. We receive almost 1100 watts per square meter in the Negev desert. This amount of energy is equivalent to a barrel of oil. That means every square meter in our region receives energy which is equivalent to a barrel of oil in a year. However, we still rely on fossil fuels for transportation, for electricity, for residential, and also for the power production. Today, I will concentrate mainly on solar energy and its role in our regional development. Solar energy has many uses. We use several technologies to heat water with solar water heaters. We can convert the solar radiation into electricity directly using photovoltaic panels. We can use it in rural communities for cooking, or in very large scale, like the solar tower that you see on the lower right corner. This is actually the solar tower in Ashalim that has the generation capacity of 121 megawatt. If I ask you which country has the highest solar water heater collector per capita, what would be your answer? Can you post this question on the Mentimeter, Abigail or Farid, to see if you can guess which country has the highest solar water heater collectors per capita? Your answer should focus on countries with very high solar radiation. All answered Israel? I can't hear you, Abigail, you are muted.
The link is in the chat. Everyone can go into the chat, go to the link and add what they think the country that has the highest solar water heater collectors per capita is.
Please pay attention, it says per capita, not capacity. Okay, Israel, Saudi Arabia, India. Brazil, Costa Rica, Greece, United States, somewhere in me.
I think that's supposed to be somewhere in the Middle East.
Yeah. So the majority said Israel. Can we go back to the slides? Okay, so the answer is per capita is actually an island in the Caribbean Sea. It's called Barbados, with a very small community. But in our region, the highest country is Cyprus, Israel, surprisingly Austria in Europe, and then Greece. So no one gave the right answer. Before a decade, Israel was #1, and Cyprus is the lead, I think, in the last 5 or 6 years. But when we look to the solar water heating collector capacity, China is the leading country, then the United States. Okay, I said that we are blessed with very high solar radiation, but unfortunately, we still rely on fossil fuels. Israel and Jordan rely mainly on oil, coal, and natural gas for transportation and for power production. Israel, till the year of 2003, relied on coal and oil. In 2003, Israel starting to import natural gas from Egypt, and Jordan today relies only on oil and natural gas. In the year 2012, we see here a drop in the natural gas use in Israel and also in Jordan. What happened in 2011, 2012? It was the Arab Spring, okay? And there were a lot of tension in Sinai, and ISIS took over some parts of Sinai, and they actually attacked the gas pipeline that provides Israel and Jordan with the natural gas. As you see in the photo on the left, you can see the orange line that shows the gas pipeline that provides Israel and Jordan with the Egyptian natural gas. As a result of the use of fossil fuels, we produce also a lot of carbon dioxide emissions. In Israel, each one of us produces in a year almost 9 tons of CO2. In Jordan, 3 tons of CO2. And if you look to the year 2012, we see a peak, we see an increase of carbon dioxide emissions. And that's exactly because of the switch of the use of natural gas into oil and coal in Jordan. So the instability of our region and the reliance on fossil fuels impacts the carbon dioxide emissions that we generate. And the result of that, the annual cost of the power in Jordan increased by $1.5 billion. That means like 600 times the electricity bill increased during that period. When we go to the United States, we see in Israel, we said 60 tons per year. In the United States, this number is 5,000 million tons of carbon dioxide. Where does this carbon dioxide emission come from? Another question for you. Which is the economic sector that provides or produces most of the carbon dioxide emissions? Is it the transportation, residential, the electricity, or the agricultural sector? This is in the US. The question is for the US.
The question is back on the Mentimeter. The link is in the chat.
We're talking here about the economic sectors: transportation, residential, electricity generation, industry, agriculture. Buildings. Agriculture is taking the lead. Okay, if we go back to the slides. Okay, the sector that produces the highest amount of carbon dioxide emissions in the US is the transportation sector, then electricity, then industry. Agriculture is responsible only for 10% of the carbon dioxide emissions. Actually, this graph is very important for every country. If we want to decarbonize any sector, any economic sector. For transportation, if we switch to electric vehicles, to vehicles that use hydrogen or electricity, we can significantly reduce the carbon dioxide emissions. If we generate the majority of our electricity from renewable energy sources without the use of natural gas or coal, then we will be able to reduce carbon dioxide emissions. If we look to Israel or Jordan or Palestine, most of the carbon dioxide emissions actually come from transportation and electricity. We do not have in our region a heavy industry. That's why we are focusing on the transportation and the electricity sector to reduce the carbon dioxide emissions. And if we look to the PV market in the world, we see that China is still taking the lead. This graph shows actually the additions in the year 2019, and we see that China was responsible for 26%, almost 1/4 of the additions of photovoltaic panels in the world. And if we look to the solar PV global capacity by country between the years 2009 and 2019, we see that China is taking the lead. The yellow color has the highest installed capacity. Then the United States is following the China. Then we have Japan, Germany, India, and the rest of the world. When we look to the amount of solar radiation that we have in the Middle East, we expect to see one of the countries in the Middle East to be among these countries. But unfortunately, we do not have a lead country in the use of photovoltaic panel in the Middle East for electricity generation. The electricity generation in Israel from renewable energy sources is less than 9%. Okay, how can we utilize the renewable energies to develop our region? This is one example of the work that we conducted with the Dead Sea Arab Center, the renewable energy diplomacy in a time of energy transition. Israel is heavily dependent on two offshore gas wells, reservoirs that are sensitive to technical failure and security threats. Palestine, 100% dependent on Israel for fossil fuels and also for electricity. And the same thing also in Jordan. Jordan is highly dependent on fuel imports, and thus it's vulnerable to political and financial pressures. How do I, okay. Okay, what are the challenges of solar energy in our region? You know, solar energy, we can convert it to produce electricity, and we have the highest solar radiation during noon hours. That is a problem or challenge of excess generation at noon, while the peak demand is in the evening. So the highest production capacity is during noon hours, but the country needs the electricity during the morning hours and the evening hours. A lack of land reserves limits the potential of solar plants. We do not have enough land in our region, in Israel. Large renewable capacity would require extensive grid development. You have to develop and upgrade the grid to transfer the electricity from the south to the center of the country. And this will add another cost for the generated power. Israel is also considered as an electricity island. What does that mean? Israel is not connected to the neighboring countries. The grid in Israel is a local grid. It's a small grid within the country. It's not connected to Jordan. It's not connected to Lebanon. It's not connected to Egypt. And this is one of the major challenges that Israel is facing. The solar energy challenge in Palestine, the majority of the land that it's good for any kind of development, including photovoltaic panels, is available in Area C, which is under the Israeli control. In order to do anything in Area C, you have to have a permission from Israel. Another challenge is the additional grid capacity to connect to the consumption areas. We have to develop the grid in Palestine, and also Palestine has a poor credit quality and the lack of local finances. So these are the major challenges for Palestine. For Jordan, also excess of generation, and the generation is during the noon hours. The grid in Jordan is unstable, and Jordan also lacks a large scale of capital investment. How can we convert these challenges into opportunities? And here I'm giving some scenarios. What happens if Israel collaborate with Palestine in renewable energy? If Israel and Palestine collaborate with each other, the excess generation at noon versus peak demand in the evening will be solved in Israel. That means the excess production during noon hours can be sold to the Palestinians. Israel will not be an electricity island anymore because it will be connected to Palestine, and Palestine is connected with the Arab grid, and it will have mutual energy security that could enhance the mutual trust between the two countries. What will happen in Palestine if they collaborate with Israel? They will rely less on Israel from the fossil fuel electricity. They will be able to generate their PV locally in Area C, and that will also lower the tension between the Palestinian National Energy Authority and the Israeli Electricity Company. And that will also reduce the cost of electricity, because the cost of electricity from Israel is much higher than the electricity that generated from renewable energy sources. Another scenario, what happens if Jordan and Palestine collaborate with each other? Jordan will be able to sell the excess of electricity from renewable energy sources to the Palestinians, and there will be no need to store the energy in Jordan. The Palestinians will rely less on Israel, and that will lower the tension between Israel and Palestine, and that will open the opportunity for the Palestinians to be connected to the Arab network, the grid, the Arab grid, and will be able to buy electricity from other Arab countries. The third scenario is between Israel and Jordan. Also the same thing, there will be no need for energy storage. The extra electricity that generated during the noon hours can be easily sold between the two countries. That will also solve the problem of energy storage, because the two grids will be connected with each other. There will be no need for storage, and Israel will be connected through Jordan to the Arab grid, and that will open huge opportunity for Israel. Another example of such kind of collaboration in the Arava, southern Israel, we have 190 megawatt installed photovoltaic plants, and the region needs around like 100 megawatt. That means we generate double the amount of electricity that we need. This is during the day. In order to have 24/7 renewable energies, we have to have storage currently. The extra electricity that we produce, we just send it north to the country. If Israel was connected to Jordan, the extra electricity that generated in Israel can be transferred into Jordan. And during the night, Israel can take from the Aqaba thermal power plant electricity to provide the south region of Israel with the electricity, and that will eliminate the need of energy storage. Abigail, how much time do you have?
Franny?
You have a few more minutes. You have
Okay.
until 1:35.
5 more
Okay, good.
minutes, 5-6 more minutes.
So the collaboration on renewables will dramatically reduce the region's greenhouse gas emissions, because we will rely totally on renewable energy sources, and will take us a step toward the collective energy sustainability. Another project that we conduct at the Arava Institute that can significantly lead to the development of the region is the solar air heaters. We developed at the Arava Institute a solar air heater that is made of evacuated tubes. This system actually converts the solar radiation into heat. We want to use the sun to heat the air, to heat our buildings. We want to rely on sun, not electricity or wood or biomass or fossil fuels to heat the buildings. The three photos that you see here in this slide, actually photos taken from photos from the United States. Even in Boston or in Massachusetts, you have such systems. Even you don't have enough solar radiation compared to the solar radiation that we have in our region. It's widely used in North America, in Asia, but unfortunately we do not use it in our region. So our goal here is to develop a solar air heater to heat our buildings during the winter, because during the winter we have a lot of solar radiation that we can harness and utilize it to heat our buildings and rely less on electricity. In Israel, 92% of the houses rely on electricity to heat the houses. In Palestine, almost 50% of the people rely on electricity or wood to heat their buildings. This is the system that we designed, made of evacuated tubes, as you see on the lower right photo. So we inject air to these evacuated tubes. Because they are evacuated, the heat loss is almost zero. The air is heated by the solar radiation, and the hot air goes to the building. This system is totally off-grid, totally renewable. We do not use electricity. We just convert in this system the solar radiation into a hot air to heat our buildings. With this system, we were able to heat the air up to 120 centigrades without the use of electricity. The only thing that you need solar air collector with a tiny small photovoltaic panel to run a fan. This fan will suck the air from your building, the cold air, will heat it with the solar air heater, and will send back the hot air into your home. What else we can use the solar air collector for? We can use it to dry crops. We can connect this system to dry raisin, vegetables, fruits. In our region, the farmers, they dry the crops in an open air, with dust, with the insects, in very uncontrolled way. So our goal, as I said, is to connect the system with a crop dryer that you can dry any kind of crop in a very controlled way. You can control the temperature, you can control the humidity, and it's in a closed area. So you can prevent the insects from reaching your products, and you can dry it in a very clean way. Another project that we're still working on at the Arava Institute is actually the renewable refueling station. The goal here is actually to use solar radiation to generate metals like aluminum, like zinc. In the solar plant, as you see in this graph here, from the solar plant, we ship metal powder to the fueling station. Instead of filling your car with gasoline, you need to fill your car with metal powder. Inside your car, you mix the metal powder with water, and that generates the hydrogen. The hydrogen is burned in the engine, and you just run your car and you produce water. The water is recycled within the car itself. When you use all the metals, you go back to the fuel station and you switch tanks. You give them the oxidized metal, and you get new metal for your car, and the oxidized metal goes back to the fuel station. So it's a totally closed cycle. The input is the sun, and the output is just the movement of your car and oxygen that can go to the hospitals. I will stop here, and if you have any questions or comments, I'll be happy to answer.
Thank you, Tareq. Thank you so much. What we're going to ask, I think, is to have all your questions. If you have any questions, save them or send them via the chat to Francis, so that we collect them all. And then at the end, we promise that we will have between 10 and or 15 minutes to just chat and do the question and answer session. So bear with us, let's move on. And then we will be happy to have the questions be read and asked. And then we'll have the three of you answering your questions. So thank you, Tareq, so much. This business of the zero emission refueling station sounds very, very interesting. Thank you. Great. So let's move on. Now we're going to be hearing from Yair Teller. So Yair, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate your helping us with this.
Hey, thank you so much. So my name is Yair Teller, and I was an alumnus of the Arava Institute a few years ago. Today, I'm a part of a founder and a part of a company called Home BioGas. We sell biogas systems all around the world, thousands of systems through distributors and online sales. You can check it on Home BioGas. And at the beginning of 2021, we did a successful IPO on the Tel Aviv stock market. So a few years ago, I had the privilege to do and this is how Home BioGas started, through promoting a biogas solution, small-scale biogas solution at the desert with Bedouins in Israel, in Palestine, and in Jordan. This project was funded by the USAID, Merck, and was led by the Arava Institute, Tareq Abu Hamed, and the Ben-Gurion University. And I will talk a little bit about it. And before that, Avigal, do you want to put a little bit of a video also? So this is a short impact video of Home BioGas, what we do today, and then we'll continue.
You just throw all your organic waste into the system, and through a biological process, it becomes biogas and you can cook.
We can have a better life and also protect our environment and our health.
Today we are shipping 150 home biogas systems to Brazil.
It's a product that's initially designed to take care of the ones who need it the most.
There are so many people that don't have access, and where biogas can be a real tool to improve their lives.
Why we are here? Because we have a vision. And the vision is to make biogas affordable and available to all.
It's a big family, home biogas family, because everybody shares our vision of making this planet a better place and to spread the solution of home biogas. Okay, thank you. So I'll share now my video. Okay, so this was presentation I gave in a conference called Desert, Drylands, and Desertification at the Ben-Gurion University. And in this project, what we actually did, we did a project with, we installed biogas systems, small-scale biogas system at Bedouin villages in the Negev desert. And we looked at the potential of the waste that is generated actually today in this area. And I'll go through it now. So today in the desert, there's about 90,000 Bedouins and about 300,000 heads, sheep, camels, and goats. So this is approximately 200 tons of manure per day that is produced. So this is the potential of 200 tons per day. Biogas, what is biogas? Biogas is a gas that is produced in anaerobic digestion and fermentation of organic matter. That means also animal manure. And from it, it produces CH4, like as natural gas. And it can be combustible, of course. The second stage is aerobic composting. So the first one is anaerobic, and the second stage will be aerobic with oxygen. And from that, you can produce compost. So the situation today, as you see here, this is a situation that we have is almost no grazing land. And also you can see there's a lot of piles of manure just spread all around. There's an issue of flies and an ecological issue, that unstable decomposing of manure. So it's also health issues. The Bedouin today, what they do, they only burn, mostly they burn the manure, and it can also hurt. There's actually children and people that get hurt from this. Last but not least is the situation today is that the local people today cook a lot of times on wood or dry manure even. And this is a big problem because when you when you have a lot of indoor, it causes a lot of indoor air pollution. And this indoor air pollution is a cause of death of women, children, respiratory problem today that we have COVID. Everybody understands the importance of strong immune system and healthy lungs. So this is exactly what it does. The opposite, actually. It actually reduces the strength of the immune system when you cook on wood and charcoal and you're in a place with a lot of indoor air pollution. It causes a reduction of the ability of the immune system to protect the body, and a lot of problems with health and cancer. So about 4.3 million women and children die each year because of indoor air pollution. So it's also a health hazard. It's also indoor pollution that kills millions. It's an ecological problem and also an economical problem. So what we actually did, we took this manure and we put it together. We went to some Bedouin villages in the desert, and we started to implement a biogas system. The first step, of course, is to collect all this manure and put it in one place and mix it together with the liquid that we have here. So you can bring fresh water if you have, or gray water. Then you collect it all brought into these special bags made from PVC or other type of material, depends how you want to build it. And it starts to ferment and produce the gas. And last but not least, the most important point is you can cook, like here, a traditional coffee on biogas. So here we can see Salman Sadan and Halima cooking coffee on biogas made from their manure. The second stage is that you can take the liquid fertilizer, the liquid that comes out from this digestion. It's full of rich nutrients and it's liquid. And you can mix it up with the local hay. A lot of times when you grow the sheep, you have a lot of hay, and you can take it, we taught them how to take the hay and how to take the liquid that is full of water and nitrogen. So we have nitrogen, water, and carbon. We mix it together and we got very good compost. So in this way, it's another way that we actually succeeded to get to fix the carbon. So in this point, we also looked at how much carbon actually we reduce from going out to the atmosphere, greenhouse gas emissions. So in this way, by using the biogas system, in the first stage, we reduced at least 6 tons of greenhouse gas emissions a year from each system. And the second stage reduced even more because you actually succeeded to collect more carbon that is fixed into the earth. So this way we can close an energy cycle, of course, that you can get the energy from the sun. It goes to the vegetables, then to the animals, to the biogas system, and back again to grow your crops again with the liquid fertilizer. So we have different types of systems. We have a bag type. We also had a cement type that we built underneath the ground, like a dome type system. We tried a few types of systems in a few different villages. Appliances that we used trying on the system there was lighting, water heating, cooking, electricity, and even refrigerating. So it's a refrigerator that works on gas, and we succeeded to make it work on the goat manure. I don't think I will go through all the mass balance of the goat manure, but at least you need to understand that 1 kilogram of manure contains about 300 grams of carbon, and we can produce about 35 liters of biogas from each kilogram of manure. After the first, as I said, the first stage is to produce the methane gas, okay? And the second stage, by collecting the methane gas and burning it. So methane gas is a gas that is about 25 times strong greenhouse gas than CO2. So by collecting the methane gas and burning it, we reduce a lot of greenhouse gas emissions. As I said, biogas system reduces up to 6 tons a year of greenhouse gas emissions. And the second stage is also stabilizing the manure after digestion. That means that we can compost the liquid manure and even stabilize more. This way, from 200 tons of manure daily that is produced in the area, in the desert, we can stabilize 32 tons of carbon a day. So these are the associated doctors and professors in the project. So of course, here we can see also that Tareq Abu Hamed was part of it. Thank you so much. Questions? And this is a project of the alumni of the Arva Institute that we did in Susia. This is the Bedouin village in South Man Hebron, Palestinian. And we did Israeli and Palestinian students work together to build biogas systems in this village. Thank you.
Great. Yair, thank you so much. Very interesting. To see it in action is great. So we appreciate all your efforts. Not only in Mexico, where I'm from Mexico, so I did not know that you were working in Mexico. So this is interesting that Mexico is doing this too as well. So thank you, thank you. All right. So reminder that we are looking for your questions. So please send them in the chat to Frances, and she is collating all those questions, and we will move on to the questions at the end of this session. So right now we have Tali. She is ready, yes? And yes. So we're going to hear from her. Tali, thank you so much for being here and teaching us all about it, your work. Thanks.
Thank you, Becky, for and all the serious team for having me, all the organizers. I will share my screen, 1 minute. Okay. Okay, so I will introduce myself quickly. I'm Tali Zohar. I'm a researcher at the Dead Sea and Arava Science Center here in the Hevel Elot, in the Elot region. And today I would like to talk about the water, energy, and food nexus. Because when we are talking about renewable energy and regional development, we're also talking about resiliency. And energy does not stand alone when we're talking about resiliency. It is part of a triangle. It's the water, energy, and food nexus. And before, Abigail, can you help me with the video? Or should I go? Okay. Sorry. Okay. Okay, I would like us to watch a short video that will explain the nexus.
תחזרי לזום.
כן, sorry.
תעשי share.
Aha.
את הוידאו. לא, share sound.
Share sound.
בדיוק.
Okay.
תעשי full screen.
Sorry for that. I'm not a very technological person. Okay,
Water,
so here we go.
Energy, food, all essential to human life and all interconnected. How so? Let's start with the most basic element, water. We need water to make our crops grow and to produce our energy. For instance, to cool power plants and to grow biofuels. Every year, the world uses 580 billion cubic meters of water for energy. That's over 200 million Olympic-sized swimming pools. But we also need energy to treat our water and to transport our food from field to table. Take this steak. There's more to it than meets the eye. It took over 3,000 litres of water to make this steak. And producing it used 35 times more energy than you'll get out of it. The world is hungry for food. Food is hungry for energy, and energy production is thirsty work. These three essential resources are already under stress, but soon they will be pushed to their limits. By 2050, the world will have 9 billion mouths to feed. Between now and then, we'll have to produce more food than we've produced in the last 8,000 years. More food means more energy, and that means we're going to need a lot more water. But in a changing climate, we're going to have to achieve more with less. Water, energy, food. The connections just keep growing. Understanding their interconnections is the essence of nexus thinking. Designing smart and sustainable policies is the essence of nexus action.
Okay. Okay. So what do 9 billion people means? It means 60% more food. It means growing this food will require more fresh water for irrigation, and we will consume 50% more energy. And as the demand will grow and climate change effects also grow, there will be less available land, which means the increased competition for resources, which create conflicts. Food insecurity, water stress, especially fresh water, and lack of reliable and affordable electricity already today are causing instability, social instability and political instability internally and regionally. So this is now I would like to ask you, and Abigail will put the minimeter. Giving limited land available, what will you use it for, energy or food? Okay. So I see many of you think that food is more important than energy. Okay. Okay. So what we're suggesting. Sorry. Okay. Okay. We're good? We're good. Okay. So what we're suggesting in the nexus thinking that we don't need to choose between the two. Okay. We can use the land twice, dual use of land. We can produce energy, we can produce food all together on the same ground. So this is called agrivoltaic or agri-PV, which means that we're growing the crops underneath the solar panels. It diversifies the income, and we can also save water because we are assuming that thanks to the shade and the cool climatic conditions underneath the panels, the soil will stay moist, and then we will use less water. It is a more holistic and integrated approach, and it increases resiliency. Okay, let's look at some examples. On our, we have some pictures from France that are growing grapes, and this is wheat on the second picture, and lettuce and strawberry. Also, we have a nice picture from Japan. These are rice fields. So what are the insights from agrivoltaics research so far? We have seen some water demand reduction thanks to the shade. We've seen that some plants actually enjoy the shade, and there is increase of biomass. we see that solar panels efficiency also increases. When it's really hot, very high temperatures, usually the PV panels efficiency decreases. So what happens is that when the soil is wet and the crops, they create what, like we said, the cool climatic conditions underneath the panels, it also affects the panels. So actually it increases the efficiency. And we're looking at the possibility of growing shade intolerant crops. Very valuable crops such as corn and wheat, they need only sun, solely sun plants. And for us to know that we can grow them in different conditions, also under the shade, and it depends, we need to find a balance. This is very good news for food security. Of course, it also provides us off-grid solution, this kind of a facility, because we can use the electricity, renewable electricity for electric tools, for irrigation, of course, for any other needs of living, and of course for food. So we are in the Dead Sea and Arava Science Center, are building a facility just these days. This is a picture from last week when we are signing underground where the poles of the PV facility is going to stand, the PV structure. We have very fine institutions and partners to work with us in this road that is funded by the Jewish National Fund. So hopefully next time we will meet, we will have some interesting insights from this research. And hopefully also our Institute students will be able to participate in the research next semester. And why it is important for us to do this kind of research, and why, if we're going back to the original question, how does renewable energy contribute to regional development? We see that the world is going towards becoming a desert. There's water stress in many countries and continents around the world by 2040. And it's getting hotter and hotter. And for us, the desert people, that we're already used to it, and we have this kind of conditions already now, we can become a source of knowledge for the rest of the world. We can do very valuable research, and we can contribute to the area's resiliency. And this is it, I think. Thank you very much for listening, and go ahead and ask some questions.
Thanks, Tali. Thank you so much for showing us this great, futuristic panorama where you have the solar panels and then these plants growing underneath them and actually increasing the efficiency of the solar panels because the plants are growing underneath them. This is awesome. This just goes to show that life is amazing and that it can actually be taken holistically and brought into trying to help us manage all our needs. So this is great. Well, thank you to our three amazing speakers. And what we would like to do now is open up for the questions and answers. I know that Frances told me she's gotten a lot of good questions. So she's going to be fielding those questions, and our panel, please feel free to, answer each other's answers and each other's questions. There's no one, we'll use this as a panel discussion rather than pointed questions from one to the other. Okay, so Frances, let us hear what some of these questions are.
Yeah, there are a lot of questions. I won't ask them in any particular order. They're running. First question is from Michael. I think this is for Tareq. How is electricity stored in Israel and Palestine?
Currently, there are a few small energy storage projects in Israel, very small scale. The largest scale that we have actually is in Ashalim project in the Negev desert, in a parabolic trough solar power plant. So currently the energy storage is very, very small. There's also a small pumped hydro storage in the Gilboa, in the wind farm. that actually they pump the water from the valley up to the Gilboa mountain using the electricity that generated from wind. And during the time that you don't have enough wind, you just allow the water to go down and regenerate the electricity. So in Israel, there are small scale energy storage technologies. And currently the country actually is discussing or planning to require from large energy producers, renewable energy producers, to incorporate energy storage technologies within the planning stages of the renewable energy plant.
Thank you. And if the other speakers want to add on to that, just feel free. This is a question from Greg for Tali. What are the biggest challenges this approach has faced or potentially will face? You're muted.
Okay. I think that this is really new approach. There wasn't so many field research so far. So I think it is mainly about finding this balance. What kind of crops will enjoy the shade? How much shade? What kind of angle will work for every country, every region, every plant? So there's a lot of research to do, a lot of trying different types of research and different types of panels and different types of crops. So there's a lot of work to be done still. And I think this is just the beginning. Really, it's really in its early stage field of research, and it's going to be very interesting. You should.
May I add one thing, Tali?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, besides what Tali mentioned, I think also the regulations are very important. The country should allow the use of agricultural land also for energy production. And currently, actually, there are only 2 states, France and Massachusetts, that allow agricultural land to be used also for energy production.
That's really interesting. Here we are in Massachusetts. This is a question from Maytal for Yair. Do you imagine the biogas systems being used only for underserved communities or more widely?
Thank you for this question. So the goal of home biogas is actually to spread and to develop systems that are being used all over the world. So today we mostly sell online to United States and Australia and Europe. So we have a lot of systems already being used in developed environments. And I believe the future is, and we're working today, developing systems that can be more and more easier for, let's call it, more modern houses to be used, how they're connected to the house, and also for buildings, for buildings to operate. And even today, we already have buildings that are starting to be developed and neighborhoods that are starting to be developed that will be connected to systems that have home biogas. This is a different scale of system and a different type of system. It's not an off-grid system that today we sell. It's a system that is connected to the grid. Let's call it, uses pumps, but it's a different system. So yeah, today we are already selling thousands of systems as we talk to United States, Australia, and across the world.
Great, thank you. This is a question from Aspa for Tareq. What is the story with the recycling of PV panels when their life cycle is over? I have read that it is very expensive and there's no incentive for companies to develop this technology.
Okay, actually, this is a good question. Today, there's an industry that recycle the components of photovoltaic panels, mainly in India and also in China. And as you know, China is the major producer of PV technologies in the world. And today, the regulations in many countries actually forces the importers to send back any electronic equipment, including PV and batteries, to the country that they imported the product from. And that means to send them back to China or to India. Photovoltaic panels live now like for 30 years, and they continue to generate significant amount of electricity. But in the near future, we will see actually more development in recycling the photovoltaic technologies. The market is still immature. And as I said, mainly India and China, they recycle the photovoltaic panels.
Great. This is another question from Aspa for Tali. How do photovoltaics panels influence the wildlife inhabiting the area?
I'm not sure I'm understanding the question.
Is there an influence of these technologies on, local biodiversity and the animals that inhabit?
I think, well, I'm not really sure. I never really checked that. I know that the problem is when you usually when you do large solar fields and you're putting a fence, this is disturbing the natural move of animals, and this could be a problem. Usually when you share the same biosphere with other lives, and of course the nature, it comes at the expense of for one another, one of each other. This is the problem. This is always the problem.
May I add something? Okay, just to add to what Tali said, look, agri-PV, agri-photovoltaics is built in an open field. There are no fence, nothing. We don't change the natural water flow in the region, so we don't impact the biodiversity. We don't have any fences. In large solar fields, like what Tali said, there are fences and they prevent the animals to move from one place to another. And now the regulations in Israel force the large power plants to design and build paths for animals through the photovoltaic fields. So there's an impact, but there are also solutions for these impacts. Everything we do has an impact on the biodiversity, and our goal here is to minimize that impact. But agri-PV, it's, as we said, it's open fields, no fence, no change in the natural water flows.
This is a question from John for Tareq. Are there any collaborations or future plans or talks on how the countries within the region, Israel, Palestine, and Jordan, to share and export the surplus energy generated from the solar energy? I guess you can talk about Red Sea, Dead Sea Canal a little bit.
Yeah, look, it's one of the major challenges of renewable energy is the storage. You have to have storage in order to have 24/7 electricity. Currently, the three countries, they don't have even enough production of photovoltaics, and they do not have enough storage. So to solve or to bypass this problem, you have to have storage. But if you collaborate with your neighbors, you can easily sell the excess of energy that is produced during the noon hours to your neighbors. You can build microgrids in certain regions, like the north of Israel and Jordan, or the south of Israel and Jordan, and you don't need to have very long, large grids to do that, and that will reduce the cost of electricity. Currently, there is no collaboration between the three countries in this field, but the potential is huge.
I want to put something here is that there is can be a collaboration between different technologies that can bring in energy in different times. So let's say if we take Germany, in Germany they also have a very advanced biogas technology. So they have a lot of biogas systems, and this system stores the energy. So in the daytime, they use the energy from solar panels, and then in the morning, in the evening, they actually generate the electricity from the biogas that is stored. In the night, they also have wind. So to manage, when you have if you have the ability to manage all of these types of energy entering in different types and that they're strong in, that means in the daytime it's a solar, in the night or in the morning, evening, biogas. So then you can contribute a stability of energy in the country. But this needs an advanced technology of monitoring and yeah, managing. But it happens today in the world in some places.
Great, thank you. This is a question for Yair from Mark Nave, our educator from Kibbutz Lotan. Could you please relate to the cultural challenges in adopting the biogas system in different countries? For example, taste of food, time needed for cooking traditional dishes, numbers of people that need to be fed from a single system, and so on.
Okay, thank you. So I can relate specifically, let's talk about the Bedouins. I think this is where we were. So I can say that in this point, the Bedouins, what we saw there is that naturally what the man in the house, he let's say decides on business aspects, and the woman decides on cooking, and she's in charge on the cooking. And in this case, when we came in to the village and to the people, so of course the men said always, yeah, I want the system, put the system, let's install the system. But in the end, who needs to maintain the system and have all the work is actually the woman. And if before that the man was supposed to bring in energy, that means maybe wood or even let's say LPG gas to the house, and he was in charge of it. So today, to be part of reducing the load of money, so the woman needs to go out and collect the manure and put it into the system. It was work, and it was more work because a lot of times these families also are blessed with children, so they have a lot of work raising the children. So I think in this case, there was a difference between the decision maker that was a man to bring in, let's say, the technology to save money because it's a new technology, to have the liquid fertilizer, but in the end, who needs to do the work and actually to get all the social knowledge and real will to do it was actually the woman. And one of the learnings from this this project was, if you saw before, this project was for we installed big systems that can hold in hundreds of kilograms a day of manure. And in the end of the project, we understood that this will not work. The women don't want to do the work of loading hundreds of kilograms a day of manure, even though they have the potential. They just want to work for 5-10 minutes, and that's it, have the gas there. So we actually went in to reduce the size of the system, have easier installations, smaller systems, more efficient systems to be connected to what actually the daily course and the daily will of the women of the house that are willing to do. No more than 10 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes of work, no more than that. Regarding, I'm talking the producing the energy, putting manure into the system. So this was an important learning. In the other case, I have to say, in other places around the world, where people do go for 3 hours a day collecting wood and taking them for miles, and it's a lot of work or a lot of money also compared to their salary, then we see a very strong adoption of the technology, of course.
Great, thank you. I have two questions from Natanya, one for Tali and one for Yair. One for Tali is for agricultural land that has already been cleared and converted into solar fields. How expensive or what are the costs associated with elevating these existing panels to regain that space for dual agricultural use?
Thank you. I'm not sure elevating the PV will be the right thing to do, because there are there could be some other options. For example, to grow maybe spices or plants that are quite they don't have they're not very high, and then maybe you can use the field for different kind of crops that they don't need like big machinery or stuff like that. This is the one. You can also use it for livestock. This is also something they do around the world, because I'm assuming it is quite it could be quite expensive to build the entire structure from scratch. I'm not sure what's the value for that. If you can do something different that will produce the same outcome.
Got it. Thank you. And this is
Tareq, you have something to add?
No, but you can put the PV panels in on the greenhouses where you already have the structure.
A question from Natanya for Yair. Many U.S. dairy farms and zoos sell their manure to companies to create fertilizers. How do you encourage these types of producers that biogas is a good and financially beneficial alternative?
Okay, so in the end, you need to show them that it's worth the money. So if it's for them, it's worth the money to sell it from manure, then it's worth the money. This is connected to what they can do with the biogas. If it's worth the money for them, if it's the gas or the electricity will be worth, and this is connected to the government that is promoting renewable energy, how much they're willing to pay or willing to pay for each kilowatt that is produced from biogas, or that they have something to use the gas for. So if it's dairy farms, a lot of time dairy farms, they a lot of time need the heat generation, hot water, but also, and this is what Home Biogas is really working hard to develop, you need the small scale systems, medium small scale systems to be cost effective. Today, the systems cost millions and millions and millions of dollars. It's very hard to get to an ROI. And the work of succeeding to do a low cost system also for commercial aspects is something that is hard, but we're working in it very, very strong, because this is the way to go. Today, some of the systems, if it's in Germany, will cost 20 million euros, 15 million euros. It's very hard to get to an ROI like that. Of course, our small scale systems, when you do, the point is also when you biogas system can treats the waste on the spot. That means that you don't need to move energy out and in. You don't need to move waste out and in. This is the point of it. So when you treat waste on the spot, this is where you reduce the cost and you also make the money or the fertilizer. So it also need to be connected. So let's say if you're next to a field that they grow food and there's a solar panel and you can sell the liquid fertilizer there close by, then it all connects together and there's a successful ROI. Yeah.
Great, thank you. A question from Gregory for Tareq, or anyone. Has there been any development of individual or local electricity generation and storage instead of requiring large land usage for solar PV? A better way of putting it, microgrids instead of a large solar farm.
Okay, this is the future, actually. Microgrids, smart grids. Currently, there are no microgrids in the region, but Eilat and Ilot, that means the southern Arava and Eilat municipality, is working in developing such a microgrid that produces 100% of the electricity from renewable energy sources with storage. and also with the smart meters. And furthermore, we are actually planning to have pilot projects for clean transportation, also within the region itself. But currently, there are no any like microgrids in the country. The Israeli electricity company is actually running a pilot for smart meters in a small community in the north, to start like planning or developing the right policies for such initiatives.
Great. Thank you. Still so many questions coming in. There are a lot of questions in the chat for Yair regarding the quality of the product. So there's a question from Rashid. Would it be wise to co-digest septage and manure regarding pathogens? And is the final produce compost, is the final compost product pathogen free? And then questions from John. How can someone overcome the challenges of hydrogen sulfides produced during biogas production in large scale, since they cause corrosion to biogas pipes? And how does the acidity or alkalinity of the substrates used for biogas production affect the quality of the gas produced? So it's a bunch of questions about the quality.
So the first question regarding the pathogens is if you have a good composting, there's no pathogens after that. Of course, it kills out all the pathogens. So that's number one answer, no pathogens. Two, this is a more serious question. So to reduce H2S depends on the amount of the size of the unit. You can or take it away by shower water, okay, by water, by activated carbon, or by iron oxide. And of course, what the substrate for the digester, that means if it has acid or if it has of course, it affects the digestion. Depends what you put in, affects the digestion. But in the end, there's laws on what you put in and how much you put in. And a good digestion will have a pH of more or less 7. Then you can get a good amount of methane gas, and also you reduce the amount of H2S like that. Okay, so if you have a good digestion, and this is part of the technology to explain the size of the system and what you can put in. Let's say for the Bedouins, it was pretty easy there, because manure, when you put in manure, introduce manure, there's no problem. It's a pH pH neutral, that means number 7, pH 7. So then the digestion is very well, and the percentage of methane is very high. So there's no issue. More issues is when you input in the food waste and things like that.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for answering these questions. There were many more, but if anybody has more questions, you can email them to me and I'll be sure to pass them on and get you your answer. But I think that's all the time we have, so I'll let Fareed take it away.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you so much, Dr. Tareq Abu Hamed. Thank you so much, Dr. Yair Teller, and thank you so much, Dr. Tali Zohar. I think what you have taught us in this lecture, that the most abundant and infinite energy and renewable energy is actually human energy. You are actually the renewable energy. Look what cooperation and collaboration could do through a plethora of fields, from Dr. Tareq Abu Hamed research about the connecting all of the systems, to Tali's connecting to agriculture, to Yair connecting with the off-grid community. And I want to say that today actually is the first day in spring. I don't know if it was coincidental or it was because of the grit and wit of the facilitator of this seminar series, but today is a day of renewability, of rebirth, of reinvention. And I think this lecture is just on spot to demonstrate that we as humans, if we collaborate and cooperate, we could do a lot of amazing things and face our challenges. And speaking of renewable energy, we should think about renewable community. And today also coincide with the Persian New Year. So as a seminar which celebrate and re-envisioning the Middle East, I would first of all love to tell my Iranian brothers and all the people in the Middle East who celebrate Nowruz, happy Nowruz. Nowruz is the Persian New Year. It's the first day of spring. And Iranian people and the people of the Middle East celebrate it as a day of rebirth, of reinvention, of life after a cold, hard winter, that at the end, life finds a way. And I think this seminar series, this community is a sign of reinvention and also is a sign of renewability. And speaking of holidays, we're not off yet. First of all, we have the Pesach, Passover, and we have Easter, which Pascha, with Eid al-Fitr. Those two holidays also celebrate freedom, celebrate also reinvention, resurrection. And I think going through the next 2 weeks, we have a lot of time to think and ponder about the first part of this seminar. First of all, I would like to remind you for the next 2 weeks, we're not gonna have any sessions. So on the 28th, on the 4th, we're gonna be celebrating our holiday. So for everybody, Pesach Sameach V'Kasher, and happy Easter for everybody. And we're gonna come back at the 11th of April. And I also would love to remind you, everything is on the shared Google Drive. Please go there, find all the attached information, the presentation, all of the videos, and we also would love to connect with you. And for that reason, I would love to show you the community that is actually being regenerating itself. Francis did send you a link for Padlet for our community. So we have a Re-envisioning the Middle East ecosystem participant sticker wall. So we have 5 courageous people: Zachary, Oren, Peter, Natalie, and Brian. Thank you so much for joining. I would love to ask you, dear participants, please join this community, because we're speaking about building this interactive community of sharing idea. And hopefully we could be working and thinking about a project that we could actually try to implement, to promote. So I would really appreciate it if you could go to the Padlet again. If you're interested, it's optional, because I think we could use the next 3 weeks for some kind of trying to foster this interactive community. And I would love to say that also don't forget to fill the feedback form. I think Franny will put it on the chat. And I would love to wish everybody a happy holidays. And we are here to, we would love to answer all your questions. So if you have any question, please connect with with us. And you have also the email of the lecturers. So thank you so much. And I wish everybody Hag Sameach, happy Easter, and happy Nowruz. Also, Nowruz means a new day, for a new day, a new dawn for us and for the Middle East. Thank you so much.